Is registered to speak with us, Diana McNally, and that deputy is on the line and ready to go. So it's 5 minutes and you're most welcome, and over to you. There may be some questions after that.
Thank you so much, Mayor. As a network of homelessness service providers providing on-the-ground supports for people sleeping rough, the Toronto Drop-In Network has stood against the forcible removal of encampments long before the shameful actions we saw this past summer in Trinity Bellwoods, Alexandra Park, and Lamport Stadium. We understood that removing people from their encampments enacts significant trauma and is against public health recommendations as well as international human rights law. In our services, the displacement of our participants from parks leads to disconnection. Evictions effectively disrupt the supportive relationships and services residents rely on from TDIN agencies, and they push them further away from us, both physically as well as psychologically. That is, evictions inflict substantial amounts of stress on encampment residents leading up to, during, and post-eviction, and our agencies have seen this result in declining mental health and increased substance use among those evicted. People have also gone missing. We have also seen people die, including Jerry, who overdosed at the Novotel 2 days after his eviction from Alexandra Park. For these reasons, our network, your agency partners in ensuring the health and well-being of unhoused Torontonians, have continuously advocated for a human rights compliant approach to working with encampments, the direct provision of the necessities of life to people living in parks, and an end to encampment evictions. Unfortunately, our expertise and voice as homelessness services providers has been ignored. Instead, the City of Toronto has launched a violent, militarized approach to removing encampments in violation of its obligations to human rights as per the Charter and international covenants, the right to housing as outlined in the National Housing Strategy Act, and public health recommendations for the United Nations Centre for Disease Control and Prevention, Public Health Ontario, and MAP Health. Evictions were carried out in order to uphold municipal bylaws, which in no way supersede Toronto's aforementioned legal obligations as defined by national and international law. Pertinent to this agenda item, evictions in Trinity Bellwoods, Alexandra Park, and Lamport Stadium were executed using a heavy police presence, which was grossly disproportionate to the number of people living in encampments facing eviction, just 51 individuals total. This also came at a great financial expense. The combined staffing cost of police during the 3 encampment evictions amounted to almost $400,000 in public dollars. While the city has cited that police were deployed to ensure the safety of staff, encampment occupants, and the general public, we know that the outcome was not one of safety, but of extreme violence. Speaking for myself, I was physically present at the 3 encampment evictions as a witness and as a professional with expertise on housing and homelessness. I am not a professional protester. Rather, I am an advocate for drop-in services and the people who use them, including many encampment residents. I saw violence enacted by police against advocates, but also against unhoused people, including park residents, other sector professionals, an elected politician, and a political candidate. I was indirectly pepper sprayed twice on 2 occasions and pushed by police onto the ground, which resulted in a sprained wrist. My goal was to bear witness to the supports being provided to encampment residents during each eviction and not to instigate. So why was I assaulted? I am an arm's-length city employee. Beyond the actions of police, which resulted in numerous injuries, particularly at Lamport Stadium, the presence of police in encampments is inherent violence. Full stop. When city communications state that police are present to ensure safety for encampment residents, it is failing to understand that unhoused people who are overly criminalized and account for 10% of all Toronto police interactions do not feel safe in their presence. When the city offers indoor spaces to people, all while they are being circumscribed inside fencing with dozens of police present, any choice made by an encampment resident is done under duress. This makes their choice to come indoors not a choice at all, but rather coercion, and coercion is violence. Fortunately, recent weeks have seen the City of Toronto change its approach to working with encampments in Dufferin Grove and Bellevue Park, and for that, I thank you. This is laudable, and the meaningful engagement and individualized support and provision of resources on site are aligned with what we at the Toronto Drop-In Network have outlined in our advocacy, particularly in a path forward. Encampments are not being removed. Police are not being deployed to enforce no trespass orders, and information is being provided surrounding indoor space and housing options so that encampment residents can make free and informed decisions around where they go. This must be made official municipal policy for supporting encampments and expanded to be the de facto approach for supporting all Torontonians sleeping rough. That said, we cannot turn a blind eye to the extreme and violent actions of police in encampments this summer, and especially at Lamport Stadium. For this reason, we at TDIN call on Mayor John Tory and City Council to implement the following. 1. Order a public judicial inquiry into encampment evictions to investigate the actions of Toronto Police.
20 seconds, ma'am.
Thank you. End the policing and eviction of encampments. And 3. Adopt and implement the recommendations of the past. I sincerely thank you at the Executive Committee for your time and consideration. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Chan McNally. Are there questions of this deputy? Okay. Are there questions of staff on this matter? Okay, with your concurrence, I will move to speakers, and I will speak first, and I have a motion, which I'll put in front of you, and simply to say that I think this is best taken up by the staff, including in this case that makes specific reference to the General Manager, Shelter Support and Housing Administration, the General Manager, Parks, Forestry and Recreation, the Director of the Office of Emergency Management, and the Director of Corporate Security for their consideration regarding the impacts of enforcement of the Parks bylaw on members of the LGBTQ Two-Spirit community. That's where it came from. It came from that advisory committee, and I think we can do justice to their request by referring it there, and would commend that motion to you. Are there any others wishing to speak to this matter? Okay, well then, on that note, I would call the question on this motion to refer and ask for all those in favor. Opposed? Carried unanimously. I believe, Madam Clerk, that completes our business for today. So I want